Welcome.
Alrighty.
Welcome to the next episode of
Dark
and
Creepy
Things.
Yay! With
Frank
and
Scout. Yay.
hurrah! Thank you again to our patrons.
Thank you, patrons.
If you want to be a patron, just follow the instructions.
Yeah. Give us money. So we can buy potatoes.
Potatoes. Yes, we got 8 our last potatoes.
Yeah, last
tonight.
potatoes. We need more
It's very
potatoes.
sad. And to feed our 4 million cat. And the neighbour's dog, I walk.
Yeah.
And buy him veggie pig ears, which
Yeah.
he loves.
Yeah.
More than regular pig ears. And also come and like our Facebook page.
Yeah.
And post episodes in, just have a bit of conversation.
Yeah.
You can suggest topics.
Yeah,
We may not do them because we're giving that priority to our patrons, but you can still suggest. We can have conversations.
Yeah.
Facebook page, download episodes, and you can listen to our episodes wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
iTunes, I think Google Play,
Spotify.
YouTube. Started doing them to YouTube now as well. I think you can catch from around episode 11 onwards
Yeah.
on YouTube. But they're all the whole back catalogue's on Spotify now as well.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm talking
Yeah.
about the technical stuff.
Anyway, this is episode 16, and it's my turn.
Who's your turn? Frank.
Frank's turn.
Frank's turn.
This one's a bit darker.
What's with you? It's so dark.
I know.
I went to Queensland. They came back dark.
Queensland sucked my soul. Okay, so this article is called Candace Newmaker. Candace Elizabeth Newmaker.
Isn't it Candace?
Candace.
It's Candace.
Candace? I can't.
So
Let's
you say
again.
Candace.
Candace.
I only know this because I have a friend called Candace. Yeah.
So this article is Candace Newmaker.
Okay.
Candace Elizabeth Newmaker, born Candace Tiara Elmore,
I can say Elmo.
Elmo, November 19th, 1989 to April 18th, 2000, was a victim of child abuse, killed during a 70-minute attachment therapy session.
Oh no! I've heard of this.
Purported to treat reactive attachment disorder. The treatment used that day including a rebirthing script during which Candace was suffocated. The story
How old
had
was she?
10.
She.
The story had international coverage.
Yep.
Okay. Candace was born in Lincolnton, North Carolina, to Angela and Todd Elmore. At a young age, she and her younger brother Michael and sister Chelsea were removed from the home for neglect and separated by social services. When she was 5, her parents' parental rights were terminated. 2 years later, she was adopted by Jean Elizabeth Newmaker, a single woman and pediatric nurse practitioner in Durham, North Carolina. Within months of the adoption, Jean began taking Candace to a psychiatrist, complaining about her behaviour and attitude at home. Although Candace was treated with medication, Jean reported that Candace's behaviour got worse during the ensuing 2 years, and a period supposedly including her playing with matches and killing goldfish.
Oh my god.
Attachment therapy and Candace's death. Candace and Jean Newmaker travelled to Evergreen, Colorado in April 2000 for a 7,002-week intensive session of attachment therapy with Connell Watkins upon a referral from William Global, a licensed psychologist from North Carolina. Candace died during the second week of the intensive sessions, with Watkins during what was been called a rebirthing session. Participating in the fatal session as therapists were Watkins and Julie Ponder, along with Candace's therapeutic foster parents, Britta St. Clair and Jack McDaniel, and Jean Newmaker. Following the script for that day's treatment, Candace was wrapped in a flannel sheet and covered with pillows to simulate a womb or birth canal, and was told to fight her way out of it, with the apparent expectation that the experience would help her attach to her adoptive mother. 4 of the adults, weighing a combined total of 673 pounds, which is like 350 kilos, used their hands and feet to push on Candace's head, chest, and 70-pound body to resist her attempts to free herself, while she complained, pleaded, and even screamed for help and air, unable to escape from the sheet. Candace stated 11 times during the session that she was dying, to which Ponder responded, "You want to die? Okay, then die. Go ahead. Die right now."
Who said that?
The psychologist.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, wait, one of the therapists, yeah.
That is not okay.
No. 20 minutes into the session, Candace had vomited and excreted inside the sheet, but was nonetheless kept restrained within. 40 minutes into the session, Jean said to Candace, "This baby doesn't want to live. She's a quitter." Candace faintly responded, "No." This would ultimately be her last word. To this, Ponder replied, "Quitter. Quitter, quitter, quitter. Quit, quit, quit. She's a quitter." Jean Newmaker, who said later she felt rejected by Candace's inability to be reborn, was asked by Watkins to leave the room in order for Candace to not pick up on Jean's sorrow. Soon thereafter, Watkins requested the same of McDaniel and Bretta St. Clair, leaving only herself and Ponder in the room with Candace. After talking for 5 minutes, the two unwrapped Candace and found that she was motionless, blue on the fingertips and lips, and not breathing.
Oh my god.
Upon this, Watkins declared, "Oh, there she is, she's sleeping in her vomit," whereupon the mother, who had been watching on a monitor in another room, rushed into the room and remarked on Candace's colour and began CPR, whilst Watkins called 911. When paramedics arrived 10 minutes later, McDaniel told them that Candace had been left alone for 5 minutes during a birthing session and was not breathing. The paramedics surmised that Candace had probably been unconscious and possibly not breathing for some time.
Jeez.
The paramedics were able to restore the girl's pulse, and she was flown by helicopter to a hospital in Denver. However, she was declared brain dead the next day as a consequence of asphyxia. The entire 70 minutes of the fatal session, as well as 10 hours of other sessions from the preceding days, had been videotaped as a matter of course with Watkins' treatment. All the videos were shown at the trial of Watkins and Ponder.
Oh god.
A year later...
I never fucking practiced again.
A year later, Watkins and Ponder were tried and convicted of reckless child abuse resulting in death and received 16-year prison sentences.
Is that all?
Bretta St. Clair and Jack McDaniel, the therapeutic foster parents, pleaded guilty to criminally negligent child abuse and were given 10 years probation and 1,000 hours of community service in a plea bargain. The adoptive mother, Jean Newmaker, a nurse practitioner, pled guilty to neglect and abuse charges and was given a 4-year suspended sentence, after which the charges were expunged from her record.
Oh, that is bullshit.
An appeal by Watkins against conviction and sentence failed. Watkins was paroled in June 2008 under intense supervision with restrictions on contact with children or counselling work, and has served approximately 7 out of her 16-year sentence. The story of Candace's death was a national one in the US, with contemporaneous reports about her death and the subsequent trial of her therapist appearing in newspapers and news magazines all around the country, as well as internationally. The case also generated enduring controversy about attachment therapy. It was the motivation behind Candace's Law in Colorado and in North Carolina. Which outlawed dangerous reenactments of the birth experience. The US House of Representatives and Senate have separately passed resolutions urging similar actions in other states. In popular culture, in the 2017 web series Petscop alludes to Newmaker, with references including the name of the Newmaker plane, the setting of the titular video game, and several mentions of a character named Tiara. Yeah, so the reason I chose this article is because I studied this in university, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, so when I did my first year psychology subject that I had to do to finish my degree, we learnt about attachment theory. And so attachment theory essentially divides people into 4 attachment categories. And so those categories are things like whether you have strong, secure attachment to your guardians, whether you have avoidant, or whether you have anxious attachment, or whether you have disorganized attachment. And so essentially what these people were trying to do was trying to get Candace to reattach to her adoptive mother, because she never attached to her birth parents properly.
Yeah, I get that, but it's like...
The way that they did it, though, I don't understand how you can...
irresponsible and not looking out for the needs of the child. It's putting the needs of the fucking parent first. And it's like, no, the needs of the child need to come first, and the child's welfare. Suffer, like, if your child's not fucking attached to you.
Yeah.
Like, it's sad, but...
That's the sort of shit.
Put the fucking life of the child at risk for you.
But also, as well, that's the kind of shit you sort of take on when you adopt a kid, though.
Exactly.
You know, like, when you adopt children, most of the time that if you adopt children who weren't adopted from babies, you know you're going to have...
attachment.
There's going to be baggage.
Yeah, of course.
There's going to be baggage.
Yeah.
It's like getting in relationships with people.
Or adopting an older animal. Like, they already have, like, some experience.
They have a life.
Exactly, before you came along.
Yeah.
that goes with it. Like, yeah, but as for anything to do with children and animals, it's like, no, like, their needs need to come first. You need to protect them as being the adults. Like,
yeah.
Pretty shitty.
Anyway, seeing as this article was a lot quicker than I thought it was going to be, I'll find another one to add on to the end of this one. Another psychological one, another one that I did in university.
So what did you learn from this case?
Just that taking on psychological theory can go wrong.
Yeah.
You've got to remember that although we learn stuff in university and we learn stuff in school about theory, trying to apply that in the most rigid way possible doesn't always work. You gotta be sensible about these things.
Yeah.
Anyway, going on from that, this is also something actually very similar about attachment theory again that I learnt in university, but on a different strain. This is actually an article about the person who did this. His name is Henry Harlow.
Oh, Harlow.
He's a psychologist.
Yeah.
Best known for his maternal separation, dependency needs, and social isolation experiments on rhesus monkeys.
Yes.
Which manifested the importance of caregiving and companionship to social and cognitive development.
Oh, it's about Harlow.
Yeah. So this article is about him, but I'll read just the section on his monkey studies. So there's all about his biography, where he came from and stuff like that. But I'm going to read just the section on his monkey studies. So, after obtaining his doctorate under the guidance of several distinguished researchers, Harlow came to the University of Wisconsin-Madison in 1930. He began his career with non-human primate research. He worked with the primates at Henry Villa Zoo, where he developed the Wisconsin General Testing Apparatus to study learning, cognition, and memory. It was through these studies that Harlow discovered that monkeys he worked with were developing strategies for his tests. What would later become known as learning sets, Harlow described as learning to learn. In order to study the development of these learning sets, Harlow needed access to developing primates, so he estimated a breeding colony of rhesus macaques. Established a breeding colony of rhesus macaques in 1932. Due to the nature of his study, Harlow needed regular access to infant primates, and thus chose to rear them in a nursery setting, rather than with their protective mothers. This alternative rearing technique, also called maternal deprivation, is highly controversial to this day, and is used in variants as the model of early life adversity in primates. Research with and caring for infant rhesus monkeys further inspired Harlow and ultimately led to some of his best-known experiments, the use of surrogate mothers. Although Harlow, his students, contemporaries and associates soon learned how to care for the physical needs of their infant monkeys, the nursery-reared infants remained very different from their mother-reared peers. Psychologically speaking, the infants were slightly strange. They were reclusive, had definite social deficits, and clung onto their cloth diapers. For instance, babies that had grown up with only a mother and no playmates showed signs of fear or aggressiveness. Noticing their attachment to the soft cloth of their diapers and the psychological changes that correlated with the absence of a maternal figure, Harlow sought to investigate the mother-infant bond. This relationship was under constant scrutiny in the early 20th century as B.F. Skinner and the behaviorists took on John Bowlby in the discussion of the mother's importance on the development of the child, the nature of their relationship, and the impact of physical contact between mother and child. The studies were motivated by John Bowlby's World Health Organization-sponsored study and report, Maternal Care and Mental Health, in 1950. In which Bowlby reviewed previous studies on the effects of institutionalization on child development and the distress experienced by children when separated from their mothers, such as Renee Spitzer's and his own surveys on children raised in a variety of settings. In 1953, his colleague James Robertson produced a short and controversial documentary film entitled A 2-Year-Old Goes to Hospital, demonstrating the almost immediate effects of maternal separation. Bowlby's report, coupled with Robertson's film, demonstrated the importance of the primary caregiver in human and non-human primate development. Bowlby de-emphasized the mother's role in feeding as a basis for the development of a strong mother-child relationship, but his conclusions generated much debate. It was the debate concerning the reasons behind the demonstrated need for maternal care that Harlow addresses with his studies of surrogates. Physical contact with infants is considered harmful to their development, and this view led to sterile, contactless nurseries across the country. Bowlby disagreed, claiming that the mother provides much more than food, including a unique bond that positively influences the child's development and mental health. To investigate the debate, Harlow created inanimate surrogate mothers for the rhesus infants from wire and wood. Each infant became attached to its particular mother, recognising its unique face and preferring it above all others. Harlow next chose to investigate if the infants had a preference for bare wire mothers or cloth-covered mothers. For this experiment, he presented the infants with a cloth mother and a wire mother under two conditions. In one situation, the wire mother held a bottle with food, and the cloth mother held no food. In the other situation, the cloth mother held the bottle, and the wire mother had nothing. Overwhelmingly, the infant macaques preferred spending their time clinging to the cloth mother. Even when only the wire mother could provide nourishment, the monkeys only visited her to feed. Harlow concluded there was much more to this infant-mother relationship than milk, and that this contact comfort was essential to the psychological development and health of infant monkeys and children. It was this research that gave strong empirical support to Bowlby's assertions on the importance of love and mother-child interaction. Successive experiments concluded that infants use the surrogate as a base for exploration and a source of comfort and protection in novel and even frightening situations. In an experiment called the open field test, an infant was placed in a novel environment with novel objects. When the infant surrogate mother was present, it clung to her, but began venturing off to explore. If frightened, the infant ran back to the surrogate mother and clung to her for a time before venturing out again. Without the surrogate mother's presence, the monkeys were paralyzed with fear, huddling in a ball and sucking their thumbs. In the fear test, infants were presented with a fearful stimulus, often a noise-making teddy bear. Without the mother, the infants cowered and avoided the object. When the surrogate mother was present, however, the infant did not show great fearful responses and often contacted the device, exploring and attacking it. Another study looked at the differentiated effects of being raised within the wire mother or a cloth mother. Both groups gained weight at equal rates, but the monkeys raised on the wire mother had softer stool and trouble digesting the milk, frequently suffering from diarrhea. Harlow's interpretation of this behaviour, which is still widely accepted, was that lack of contact comfort is psychologically stressful to the monkeys, and the digestive problems are a physiological manifestation of that stress. The importance of these findings is that they contradicted both the traditional pedagogic advice of limiting or avoiding bodily contact in order to attempt to avoid spoiling children, and the insistence of the predominant behaviourist school of psychology that emotions were negligible. Feeding was thought to be the most important factor in the formation of the child-mother bond. Harlow concluded, however, that nursing strengthened the mother-child bond because of the intimate body contact that it provided. He described the experiments as a study of love. He believed that contact comfort could be provided by either mother or father. Though widely accepted now, this idea was revolutionary at the time of provoking thoughts and values considering the studies of love.
Yeah.
Some of Harlow's final experiments explored social deprivation in the quest to create an animal model for the study of depression. This study is the most controversial and involved isolation of an infant and juvenile macaques for various periods of time. Monkeys placed in isolation exhibited social deficits. Monkeys placed in isolation exhibited social deficits when introduced or reintroduced into a peer group. They appeared unsure of how to interact with their conspecifics and mostly stayed separate from the group, demonstrating the importance of social interaction and stimuli informing the ability to interact with conspecifics in developing monkeys. In developing monkeys and comparatively in children.
Wow.
The critics of Harlow's research have observed that clinging is a matter of survival in young rhesus monkeys, but not in humans, and has suggested that his conclusions, when applied to humans, overestimate the importance of contact comfort and underestimate the importance of nursing.
Yeah, I remember learning a fair bit about Harlow in Year 12 psychology.
Yeah. Partial and total isolation of infant monkeys. Beginning in 1959, Harlow and his students began publishing their observations on the effects of partial and total social isolation. Partial isolation involved raising monkeys in bare wire cages that allowed them to see, smell, and hear other monkeys, but provided no opportunity for physical contact. Total social isolation involved rearing monkeys in isolation chambers that precluded any and all contact with other monkeys. Harlow et al. Reported that partial isolation resulted in various abnormalities such as blank staring, stereotyped repetitive circling in their cages, and self-mutilation. These monkeys were then observed in various studies. For the study, some of the monkeys were kept in isolation for 15 years.
Oh, God.
The total isolation experiments, baby monkeys were left alone for 3, 6, 12, or 24 months of total social deprivation. The experiments produced monkeys that were severely psychologically disturbed. Harlow wrote, "No monkeys died during isolation. When initially removed from total isolation, however, they usually go into a state of emotional shock, characterized by autistic self-clutching and rocking. One of 6 monkeys isolated for 3 months refused to eat after release and died 5 days later. The autopsy results attributed death to emotional anorexia."
Jeez.
The effects of 6 months of total isolation were so devastating and debilitating that we had assumed initially that 12 months of isolation would not produce any additional decrement. This assumption proved to be false. 12 months of isolation almost obliterated the animals socially.
Oh, wow.
Harlow tried to reintegrate the monkeys who had been isolated for 6 months by placing them into monkeys who had been raised normally. The rehabilitation attempts met with limited success. Harlow wrote that total isolation for the first 6 months of life produced severe deficits in virtually every aspect of social behavior. Isolates exposed to monkeys at the same age who were reared normally achieved only limited recovery of simple social responses. Some monkey mothers reared in isolation exhibited acceptable maternal behavior when forced to accept infant contact over a period of months, but showed no further recovery. Isolates given to surrogate mothers developed crude interactive patterns among themselves. Opposed to this, when 6-month isolates were exposed to younger 3-month-old monkeys, they achieved essentially complete social recovery for all situations tested. The findings were confirmed by other researchers, who found no difference between peer therapy recipients and mother-reared infants, but found that artificial surrogates had very little effect. Since Harlow's pioneering work on touch research in development, since recent work in rats has found evidence that touch during infancy has resulted in a decrease in corticosteroids, a steroid hormone involved in stress, and an increase in glucocorticoid receptors in many regions of the brain. Schanberg and Field found that even short-term interruption of mother-pup interaction in rats markedly affected several biochemical processes in the developing pup. A reduction in orthine decarboxylase activity, a sensitive index of cell growth and differentiation, a reduction in growth hormone release in all organs, including the heart, liver, and throughout the brain, including the cerebrum, cerebellum, and brainstem, an increase in corticosteroid secretion, and suppressed tissue ODC responsivity to an administered growth hormone. So, translation, they didn't release growth hormone, so they wouldn't grow. And their brains wouldn't grow.
That's awful.
Yeah. Additionally, and even if you gave them growth hormone, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Additionally, it was found that animals who were touch deprived have weakened immune systems. Investigators have measured a direct positive relationship between the amount of contact and grooming an infant monkey receives during its first 6 months and its ability to produce antibodies in response to an antibody challenge such as tetanus at a little over 1 year of age. Trying to identify a mechanism for the immunology of touch, some investigators point to modulations of arousal and associated hormonal activity. Touch deprivation may cause stress-induced activation of the pituitary/adrenal system, which in turn leads to increased plasma cortisol and adrenocorticotropic hormone. Likewise, research suggests regular and natural stimulation of the skin may moderate these pituitary adrenal responses in a positive and healthy way. Pit of despair. Harlow was well known for refusing to use conventional terminology, instead choosing deliberately outrageous terms for the experimental apparatus he devised. This came from an early conflict with the conventional psychological establishment, which with Harlow used the term love in place of the popular and archaically correct term attachment. Such terms and respective devices included force mating device he called the rape rack,
What?
tormenting surrogate mother devices called Iron Maidens, and a isolation chamber he called the Pit of Despair, developed by him and a graduate student.
Jeez.
In the last of these devices,
I
alternatively...
do remember reading about that, actually.
Yeah.
Studying that.
Yeah, alternatively called the Well of Despair, baby monkeys were left alone in darkness for up to 1 year from birth, or repetitively separated from their peers and isolated in the chamber. These procedures quickly produced monkeys that were severely psychologically disturbed and used as models of human depression. Harlow tried to rehabilitate monkeys that had been subject to varying degrees of isolation using various forms of therapy. In our study of psychopathology, we began as statists trying to produce abnormality. Now we are psychiatrists trying to achieve normality and equanimity.
Jeez.
So yeah.
What year was Harlow again? Like
50s.
Yeah. When you think about it, it's pretty weird, when you think about it, it's not actually that long ago.
No, it's not, but you gotta remember as well, although we did have, we've talked about this many times, although we did have the Nuremberg trials, which did say we can't experiment on humans, and doing experiments on humans is questionable. Going into psychological experimentation, and especially in psychological experimentation on animals, was a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Right? And so, although we look back on these experiments now and go, holy shit, back then they didn't have anything, their version of holy shit was not that.
Yeah.
They didn't have that. So they didn't have that reference point that we do.
Yeah.
Which we have talked about before.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah, but I just found, and one of they didn't mention in the article, but I remember that we were talking about this at uni. With the wire mothers and the cloth mothers. Although the babies held on to the cloth mother 99% of the time, sometimes they would try and lean over and feed on the wire mother while still hanging on to the cloth mother at the same time, so they'd lean across. And then when they added it so that the cloth mother actually induced pain, they still hung on to the cloth mother.
Yeah.
The baby would hang on to the cloth mother and they'd stab it with a stick or something while it was holding on to the cloth mother, and it wouldn't let go. Even though the cloth mother was hurting it, it still stayed.
Oh, it's awful though.
Yeah.
But it says a lot.
It says so much.
Yeah.
And because that's the thing, and it relates to the Candace Newmaker stuff too, because it's all about attachment to parents, and how your attachment to your parents and physical contact to family members, how much it influences your ability to develop.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, because you hear about, because then there's all these really old stories about after in Russia, when it was going through all the poverty, and after the Soviet Union fell, there was lots and lots of orphanages filled with children who had just been put into cribs and left there.
Yeah.
They were told not to touch them.
Yeah. But it also says a lot about, abused children, and even if the person, their parent abuses them, they still love them, and there's still that whole attachment thing, even though there shouldn't be. It's you're the person who hurt me, why do I still... Yeah. Yeah,
and you still got to look out for that, because you need it. Because evolutionarily you need it.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the evolutionary line, we've developed that we need to have that physical contact with another member of our species in order to develop properly.
Yeah.
And that's not just for development too, it's obviously for protection, because the monkeys that would go and investigate when the mother was there compared to do absolutely nothing when the mother wasn't there.
Yeah.
Anyway, two articles for you. Related.
Yes, they are very related.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you. Anyway, some dark and creepy things for you.
Yes.
For your Sunday night.
Yes. Cool. Alrighty.
Alrighty.
So that's another episode of
dark and creepy
things. with Frank
and
Scout.
Yeah.
Thanks again to our patrons.
Yeah.
You know you want to be one too. Be like the cool creepers.
Yeah.
Alright. Alrighty, creepers.
Alrighty. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.